go. To introduce Mahmoud Amer, who is a professor of Arabic and applied linguistics and the former chairperson of the Department of Languages and Cultures at Westchester University of Pennsylvania. And he was chair until this year. So you're free now from being chair. We actually met him. Actually, I didn't personally meet him, but I was at his talk at IELTS, which is a conference that is about language centers across the country, and how we run language centers, what we do, what is included. And we were fortunate enough that it was actually here in New Orleans in June. And I suggested to Abir that this could potentially be someone that we would love to invite to talk to our language program directors. But he's extraordinarily qualified to talk to us about technology. He's an Adobe Certified Expert and a CompTIA Certified Technical Trainer. He served as an executive board member in the American Associations for Teachers of Arabic from 20 to 23. He's been teaching Arabic in the US since 2002, which is fascinating, since the interest and importance of Arabic has shifted many times over, and so you've seen many different interests, right, with respect to Arabic and Arabic language programs. Now, his scholarship focuses on the use of technology in language learning, and he's been doing this for over a decade and has authored several award-winning applications. So it's very much hands-on with technology in addition to his academic scholarship. His most recent digital portfolio of technology and second language acquisition includes the development of vocabby, so vocab and then double E, vocabby, I'll put that in the chat.org. His scholarly work has appeared in second language research and practice and in the Computer Assisted Language Instruction Consortium journals. His latest book chapter, and this is something that I'm really interested in, I'm about to buy this book now that I've seen this in Mahmoud's biography. His latest book chapter appeared in the book titled Technology Assisted Language Assessment in Diverse Contexts, Lessons from the Transition to Online Testing During COVID-19. And I'm just going to add one detail, that is probably one of the most challenging parts of COVID, was how do we assess online. And I think that for many people, that question wasn't answered. So I very much look forward to reading that book and to, reading your article in particular. So welcome, Mahmoud. It's an honor to have you here. And I also want to thank Abir, who has done everything to make this work and, to bring Mahmoud to us, via Zoom. Next time we'll have to have you come back to New Orleans in person. And I'm going to pass the floor to you. So thank you. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Roxanne. Thank you, everyone. And again, it's my pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you, Abir, for working with me throughout the summer and for talking to me at IELTS. It's honestly my pleasure to be here. And I want to, the talk that I gave at IELTS has been something that I've been working on for quite some time. The technology that I've been working on I've been working on technology since the time of these. I don't know if you remember these. I wrote my dissertation on how to use these kinds of devices at the time. There was this 2004, 2005, there were no iPhones, no Androids. Mm-hmm. So I've really been exploring the way in which technology can not only just assist, but really transform education. And of course, technology has evolved through the years, and so has my teaching, and so has my scholarship. So that talk has sort of represented some of the takeaways or best practices, so to speak, of what we do with technology, since it's continuously shifting and it's continuously changing. So that's kind of the basics of it. Now, for today's presentation, I will focus on gamification, which is the focus of the presentation that I gave at IELTS. I will also showcase some of the ways in which, when we think of technology, typically we think of big programs and massive technology. A lot of times, there are a lot of different ways in which technology can be done by really anybody. I call them, technology on the go or lessons on the go, where you can create interactive media with students to engage them in the class and outside the class. I have my degree is in second language acquisition, so I'm kind of aware of the fact that there isn't really enough time in the classroom to do all the language teaching that really needs to be done. So and in my recent work in the teacher education program, where we work with pre-service teachers and in-service teachers, where we teach them how to use technology effectively, our focus has been to do what we can do in the class, but also make sure that learning continues to happen after the students leave the classroom. There isn't just I tell my students there's a math problem. There's isn't enough time in the classroom to teach, like everybody here knows. So some of the technology I'll showcase today can actually be done async, where students can actually play together, but also outside of the classroom. So I have a quick presentation. I'll spend maybe 10 minutes on that, and then we're just going to play 3 or 4 games just to showcase how the games work. I'll highlight some of the themes in the scholarship of computer language technology and education, themes of collaboration, co-creation, open-ended projects, project-based learning, so that we kind of shift from the fill-in-the-blank kind of rote learning that students have been doing, which is necessary to me, but also kind of pair that with activities that take advantage of students' creativity, where they put language to use in authentic settings. So that's kind of the framework today. So we'll spend about 10 to 15, maybe 15 to 20 minutes on some games. Some games we'll spend a little bit more time, maybe 20 minutes. If we have enough time, I'll have you actually co-create a game with me. So we kind of practice that. And I do have all of that, the PowerPoint, and I do have some lesson plans. I designed one for Spanish, one for French, one for Arabic. Some of the things I'm familiar with, but these lessons can easily be ported into some other languages. I'll send those to Abir and Roxanne at the end of the talk so they can share them with everybody. And absolutely, I'm just going to say this one more time. Feel free to always reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help and share everything that I have made throughout the years. So that's kind of the plan for today. Am I allowed to do like share screen? I think I can do share screen. Okay.
You should be able to, yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'll just walk you through some of the, so this is the tool we'll be working, well, this is one of the tools that we're working on today. This is vocabby.org. And the inspiration I got for this one, I don't know if anybody here knows the Spelling Bee game by the New York Times. Has anybody played that game? So I always like to play it every single day. I'm a subscriber for that game. And I always thought it'd be nice if I can do something like this for my students in Arabic. But of course, the technology is proprietary for the New York Times, so I can't do that. And of course, I can't ask them to, share it with me. So I actually created my own, where you can do something like this for any language practically. But then it morphed into sort of a vocab-based gaming platform, which I'll show you how it's used. So that's why you have it here. So we'll do a quick overview of gamification. I'll show you some of the research that shows it works. It engages students and it really helps them connect with deeper topics. I'll make the case for how we should gamify the classroom. I'll do a demo in Spanish, a demo in French, and demo in Arabic. If I thought we'd have enough more people for the presentations to do different languages, but if you feel like we can do one in English in general, kind of practice that, because I don't know how many people speak any of these languages, we can also do that. We'll do a crowdsourcing of a learning experience demonstration through the use of a Jeopardy game. And then once we do that, we'll show you how to do some easy games on the go using Google Slides or PowerPoint practically. So the whole idea here is to tell you that as teachers working with language lab directors or educators who are involved in L2 teaching, we should feel like kids in a candy store. There's just so many different tools that exist today that can really engage language learners and can sort of help them take advantage of their language ability, and also to spend more time practicing the language, again, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. So that's kind of the agenda of the day. All right. So speaking of Zoom and speaking of the pandemic, we noticed there's a sort of engagement crisis, right? A lot of the students are not learning. A lot of students are not paying attention. A lot of students are not doing the activities that they need to do. A lot of students are just sitting on the Zoom calls and they're not involved. And this actually happened even before the Zoom pandemic. And we've noticed a lot of students are just not engaged. They have to take the language because they're required to take a language. I don't know about Tulane, but at Westchester, we used to have a requirement of 101, 102, 201, 202 throughout, regardless of language. And now many of the programs have switched to non-language options. So students feel like I'm in the classroom because I have to take it. So I just want to get it over with, so to speak. So we already get that sense of lack of engagement, but that was exasperated by the fact of the COVID pandemic. So I've been always engaged. I've been always interested in sort of like how can technology sort of fill those kind of gaps, and I'm surprised. This is sort of a paradox here. There's a lot of technology out there that's highly engaging, that's highly interactive, but at the same time, students are not really engaged. And I know not every teacher takes advantage of all the technologies that exist, and I know it takes a lot of practice. But we also teach how, we tend to teach the way we learned, right? So when we learned, 10 or 15 years ago, none of those tools existed. So there needs to be sort of that shift into project-based, let students kind of get involved in the activities and so on. So this is sort of what I'm trying to talk about. Like, there is a lot of tools that can engage learners. So why are we having this engagement crisis, so to speak? One other way of thinking of gamification as a high impact learning experience is that gamification in essence is a problem solving activity, right? So you have a problem, you have to solve it. Typically, you're competing with someone else and you want to score and you want to sort of beat them in a game. But throughout this process, you start to figure out what are the strategies, what's the best way for me to kind of win the game. So games can absolutely be a great way to configure, to sort of engage students. I'll give you a quick example. This semester, I'm teaching an Arabic 101 class, and it happened to be online, even though that's not my preferred way of teaching. And we're teaching numbers in Arabic, right? We're teaching them how to use numbers and how to practice. And I, of course, and I teach them, I practice the numbers, they practice them at home. But this semester, I had them, once we finished the activity and once we sort of learned, I said, here's the task. I didn't want to ask you to use it in a sentence. I'm going to give you a phone number and I want you to dial it from your own phones. And that was actually my office phone number. Students didn't know what the phone number was, but they had to dial it correctly. Otherwise, they'd be calling someone else. And I noticed it's immediately shifted their focus. They knew there's a little bit of a high stake now involved. And I think that's something games do. They kind of raise the stakes. And, some people did call the right number. Some people didn't call the right number. So we tried a different activity where I told them, okay, I have a very silly picture of me when I was 16 years old. It's hidden in this safe, but I'm going to give you the safe number. It's a 5-digit number, and I have to say it quickly, and I have to kind of get it correct. If you get it correct, of course, they type it in the chat. And if it's correct, then I show them the picture. Students automatically change, their attitude about the class changes automatically. They know they're playing, you're raising the stakes. Now everybody wants to see that silly picture. You create that kind of mystery. And all of a sudden, the class has a different dynamic, instead of just, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to repeat this, I'm going to put you in groups. I think there's a lot of ways in which we can do the gaming. And again, technology doesn't have to be really involved at all. I'm showing you examples with technology, but gamification, in a sense, you can always gamify the classroom with little technology, if you want. So yeah, it's a problem-solving activity, and students kind of get engaged with those kinds of things. So gamification is a quick definition for those of you who are not familiar, and it's pretty simple. It's like introducing game mechanics in a non-game environment. So badging, scoring, any type of incentives that allow students to sort of show their progress or show their competence in a particular game, that's considered gamification. Does it work? It does. There's absolutely a consensus in the literature about the fact that gamification in of itself is a nice way to sort of engage students in the classroom, but game-based learning tends to be considered one of the high impact language learning experiences. So think of high impact learning experiences like, doing study abroad or talking to native speakers on the phone via these talk abroad programs or these things. So gamification in that sense really creates that high impact learning experience because students go all in on a game. They're really, really involved. They don't take a back seat. They feel like, I want to participate. There's a prize. I do want to win this. So there's definitely consensus in the field that it does work. And now, how does it work in the sense? Some of this is probably obvious. Students feel like it. You create a laid back experience for them. They feel like I can take risks now. I feel like there are no barriers. It's just between me and just completing the task, which is winning or getting on the leaderboard or scoring that point. So they do that way, and they also allow students to want to know more about a topic, especially if they designed from a way where students can actually do the projects. If you create a game where the students are involved in the game, students get really involved and they want to know more about the topic themselves. So they can definitely do that. Another way gamification works is that students, when they're allowed to take advantage of the existence of technology and the connected networks of information, think, the internet searches, the, Wikipedias, wikis, all the different sources of information on the internet. If they're allowed to work on a task that invites them to connect that information from multiple sources, it absolutely maximizes their critical thinking, and it also helps them come up with solutions to problems that they haven't really figured out before. So in those kinds of ways, that's how sort of gamification works from a variety of studies and from a variety of perspectives. So what do we do when we work with games? Like the games that I'll share today, they feature collaboration. So students work together on a team to beat another team. So they do collaborate, even though they're competing, but they're also collaborating. They co-create knowledge. So they're like the teacher typically has access to all the information. In this kind of scene, the students actually are part of creating the content, or they're part of contributing to the lesson. So they feel more involved. There's a lot of more, like there's buy-in for them in the class. Questions are typically not open, they're not closed. Like there isn't like a set single of questions and you have to get them. They can be open-ended, meaning you're allowing students to answer a problem in a different way than the one that you actually expected them to. So you take advantage of their creativity. Shareable things, these are like things we want to share with others. And if you think of Web 2.0 technology, it's really about recreating, sharing, and making it available to everyone, in especially like in social-based media. Web 2.0, we want to share everything with everyone else. It's student-centered, so the student is the center of the project. They're working on it and they're particularly contributing to something that they're working on, and it's typically project-based. So if you think of like, how am I, if I'm really doing this the way I'm supposed to, take a look at the projects that are coming up. Are there students' projects, or are there worksheets that you created where students have to fill them in? Again, there is a place for both, but especially when the students are outside of the classroom, that's when the teacher is not there. And that's where the bulk of the learning experience should also be happening, because students spend more time outside of the class than they actually do spend time in the classroom. Some of the gaming principles that you will see in the samples that I have, they're just Web 2.0 friendly, meaning you can recreate content with images, with video. It's easily shareable. It's a bring your own device type of technology, meaning it's not limited to a phone. It's not limited to a PC. We know that students are accessing information from a lot of different resources. Seamless integration. I teach a graduate seminar on how to use technology in education, and I always sense the frustration when students try to log in and try to sort of create an account and they run into issues. So I try to focus on seamless integration, open access, user-friendly, group-friendly. It allows these different configurations for the classroom, and to have some metadata to sort of learn about how the student behavior is happening, like what's going on, are the students learning, how can we learn from this particular behavior. Most of them, all of them, the ones that I have at least, are LMS compliant, meaning they're within they function within an LMS, be it Bright, D2L, Canvas, you name it. And they do track do achievement tracking, scoring, badging, all that good stuff, and certainly private. I'm a big believer in, I don't need to harvest students' data. I don't need to know everything about the students. I just want them to participate in the particular game. I don't believe a particular game or one single instance of a game is going to sort of change the trajectory of the class, but that gamification, once it becomes a culture of the class, you'll start to see students more involved. You'll start to see students take the initiative. You'll start to see students like on a little bit of a different level than they were before. So that's kind of quickly my presentation. I hope I didn't take too much time. Any questions on any of this before we get into the playing? Because the next thing we're going to do is play a game. I'll stop sharing. See, I've been told that I go quickly, so I want to give myself a moment to see if anybody has any questions. It's okay. We can always take questions at the end, but I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions. All right.
Roxanne, you want?
Yeah, I just have a quick question, and you might want to take this at the end, but it's about the general, because I too teach a graduate seminar on language pedagogy, part of which is gamification. Now I'm thinking I should invite you to give a guest lecture at the, at the seminar. But I'm wondering if you've ever encountered students who are resistant to the idea of competition, right? Like some, this actually dates back to when I was at Brandeis, but I was doing, it was before we were, at least I was incorporating technology into the language classroom, but a student felt very offended / anxious about the idea of doing, competing, that it's supposed to be an environment in which everyone, so, I haven't encountered that recently. I find, as you're showing, that sort of there's a motivation and there's an investment that students don't necessarily have in other activities, but have you had to navigate that, and what would you recommend if a student does come to you after class or send you an email saying, I was very uncomfortable in this competitive, environment, which is the world out there, but nonetheless, it's.
I did. Students, the first time we tried it wasn't a vocabby, it was a spelling bee type game. A few students said, I hated it. I felt like I didn't know anything about the game. I felt students who were absolutely highly intelligent felt like I couldn't contribute. I felt like it was a totally horrible experience. So I definitely got that the first time, students, and they shared that comfortably with me. They said, I paused, we played the game, we had some winners. There were no prizes, only like once or twice I brought actual prizes to a vocabby game. But that one wasn't there were really there was nothing to you didn't win technically anything, and you didn't lose really anything, except the students really felt frustrated they couldn't participate. So we went back to the drawing board and we played the same game again in groups, and it was light and day. Yeah. It was just absolutely the opposite experience. When we actually played it in groups, the students said, now I get it. Now I want to play it. Because within the groups, they felt that sense of community / camaraderie. I actually felt like it felt a little tribal. For some reason, once I put students in groups and once we played the game, everybody wanted to sort of help their group win. And if they lost, the loss wasn't an individual loss. They felt, well, I contributed as much as I could. And since then, I absolutely stopped playing the vocabby in my classes individually. It's absolutely group-based.
Okay, so even if you were doing something like Kahoots, which, is just the sort of go-to that everybody tends to go to if they're not familiar with some of these other ones, you would suggest putting them into group. I mean, that's a great, it's so basic, but some of, we don't always think of that, right? The tendency, I do put them into groups, but when I was doing that other activity at Brandeis, it was definitely an individual. So maybe it's a sense of community, yours, and if you get it wrong or you don't win, it's the group, it's the community identity, not individual. So, and
like you, it didn't occur to me because it didn't occur to me to play in groups. It didn't said hey, let's play individually because we want to sort of see how everybody's doing on their own. But it turned out when the switch wasn't and I meant to say it was literally light and day. It went from an experience that a lot of students didn't want to get involved in to an experience that everybody started to expect me to do it. In fact, there was one single class where we did, it wasn't vocabby, it was a Jeopardy game. They actually said, can we please play the game again to review for the exam? So when the students are asking you for it, then you definitely realize the engagement has been really high and they've been really receptive to it. But there will be some times where it might necessarily not work. The configuration may not necessarily work as you would want it, especially if they do it in an async fashion. Say you have a vocabby and you say, okay, this vocabby is going to go live at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. Get ready. That could, throw things throw students off because they might not be ready for it, or maybe one of the group members is not ready. So that could be a complication, but in class with the groups, the engagement was just incredibly different between having the students individually work on it. And they actually just felt more motivated when they had a group.
The other thing, because I know that all of us have encountered this, is that students are hyper aware of their own emotions now and protective of those emotions. And I feel anxious, so I'm going to tell you this, right? And so that might minimize and disseminate this sort of the emotional, or I don't feel seen, you know, the things that we hear all the time. And not to minimize that, but it's definitely a shift in you know, in the student body, at least in the past 10 years or so. But that might minimize it then if it's a whole group, right? Like then, you know, it's counterbalanced by somebody else who, so that, okay, that's great. So generally when you do these games, you're always putting them into groups.
Almost always, unless the configuration won't work, unless like
Okay.
the configuration. And the other thing, and I know Elena has her hand up, but one thing I also wanted to mention is that for some of the games, like when the students initially have those kinds of like, you know, like I feel anxious about this game, it's usually on a first instance of the game. That's why in my classes, like you got to make a culture, like you have to play it once and twice and three times. You should make students feel comfortable with the fact that this is a game and we're going to play it and someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. I think that also plays into it. The first time, like even many of those games that I play, the first time they don't really go as well as they should. I'm like, why students are engaged? It's like, you know, it's the first time students are getting to know each other. But once you put the students in those groups, it turns out those students stay a group, whether or not you're playing the game. It kind of brings them together. Like you break the ice or break the barrier. You know, students sit in a classroom. You know, typically have a class of 30 or 25 students. Everybody's sitting in their corner. You put them in a room. They play the game. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, they'll just work automatically, whether it's a game or not. Like the barriers have been broken. They feel like part of a tribe. And in fact, in one of the games, this group came up with a name for themselves that they used it for every other project. They called themselves the Corner Crew. So I would say, I'm just like, they'll even email me, say, I'm part of the Corner Crew group. Like they won't even mention the names thinking I would remember them. But that's how, like, that's the affinity they had with the sort of the group identity. For some reason, like it was the most obvious thing that you said. It was just like the most obvious, like the most thing that you would miss is like putting them in a group and having them play. Now, putting them in a group and having them do like other work projects, I haven't really been like a lot of issues happen. Like students say, I did a lot of the work, the students didn't do. I have not seen that in games. Some reason when it's a game, everybody goes all in. And for the students who don't contribute or feel like anxious, they just don't contribute as much in the group. You still get to see some of those students who just don't want to be involved in any way in it, but they're less anxious because it's not their name or their reputation or it's not their loss per se.
Right, it's the benefits of small group work, but then also community building because it's a consistent group with high stakes. Love it. I think Elena, did you have a question?
Yes, and this might be something that you're going to address. But my question is gaming just for basic content, as you shared, for instance, getting the right number, the right series of numbers, or can it apply to more complex material?
So a very good question. There are ranges of how you can adapt the activity. The one we're going to do now is, I don't want to say it's basic, but definitely like something you might want to do in the 201, 202-ish level. There different languages, I think, might be a little different for how they treat certain grammatical concepts and such, but they typically tend to be like the type of games that I'll show you, they tend to typically be like, you know, beginner slash intermediate, and I don't refer to OPI, I mean like beginner, maybe like 100 level, and then intermediate 200 level. 300 level, it's mostly project based, so it's not gamification in the sense, but in my experience, because the language levels that I've been teaching have been like 100, 200. We haven't been successful running a 300 level Arabic class recently because the number of students are just not really there. So I haven't really tried it, but you can look at the example. I think there might be a way to tweak it out to like more advanced students, but they typically have been 100, 200 to be truthful. Now that's not a limitation of the technology. It's just a limitation of, I haven't been in that kind of class. So I haven't thought of an opportunity. Now, Jeopardy, which you guys know what Jeopardy is, you can make it as complicated or as basic as you want. So those can definitely, you have them for an upper level class. Shall we play? So the first activity I had was a Spanish lesson, sort of Spanish lesson game type, but I don't feel like we have enough. Everybody here, I mean, I don't speak Spanish, but do we have enough people who speak Spanish, or should you like switch it to an English game and then you can port it into any language? I'd like to maximize engagement. So what do you think?
Maybe just English, and then
Okay.
everybody can then adapt it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to play in groups? The numbers don't suggest we already have like what, 5 people, but you can, I could put you in like in 2 groups. We can play one game just individually, just to kind of see how it feels. And then we can play another one as a group. And then we can sort of really reflect on how different it would be versus, groups versus non-groups. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. And by the way, I will show you, first we'll play the game. So I'll show you how to play the game, and then we'll show you how to create a vocabby game. So vocabby is open access. You don't have to pay anything or anything like that. You just need to use an email to log in and play. So students don't need to do anything except to get a code. So they get a text, they get a number to like a game room code, and they sign in with that code. They don't provide any information. They only provide a screen name of their choosing, right? For teachers to create, they only need to provide an email address. That's all that's collected from them. All right, so I have so many windows open, so just bear with me for a second to get my bearing here. But so let's see here. So I'm just creating the game. I'm going to do a quick share screen of my desktop. Let me know if you're seeing my desktop. Thumbs up if you do. So I'm on the screen that says, so this is, I just created a vocabby game, by the way. So this is, once you create it, this is what you get. The students get a QRC code or a room number to play. I'm going to put this in the chat. You can actually use your phone to play, or you can just use the computer. I'll put the link in the chat to just make it easier for you. But students, that's the idea of bring your own device. So students in the class can just use their phones. And if they have their computers, they can just play with their computers. The link that I sent you in the chat, if you click on it, you should go to, oh, so sorry. I know someone was trying to take the QRC code, but here it is again. So if you want to play from your phone, I'll just leave it here for a sec. If you go to the link that I just put, you'll see a play page. Technically, all you need to do is just put a name and just click join and play. So once you join and play, you're in the game. This is where you start to type the word. So now what's the prompt? So someone's like, what is the prompt? What are we playing with? So this is the lesson that I wanted to share with you. So this is I kind of designed it to be a Spanish lesson, but for this purpose, we're going to do it as an English lesson. It's just like describing a person's character. The grammar focus would be using because or because of. The vocab focus will be character descriptions and attributes, and then we'll use we'll use more than one technology, use vocabby, Padlet, and at some point a PowerPoint. But these are the people here. We have Barack Obama, Shakira, former President Trump, Michelle Obama, Johnny Depp, Oprah Winfrey, Lionel Messi, and Kim Kardashian. I picked a range of, sport, media, politics, talk show, music to kind of get students familiar. You pick your own characters and whatnot. Now, how would you describe any of these people, right? So that's kind of the task. Now, as you start working on as you start coming up with adjectives to describe them, they'll show up on the game action board here. So we'll see the leaderboard that the students are playing. But on the play page, everybody who's playing, like if Roxanne provides an answer, it also shows up on my page. So we're competing against each other, but once we create this knowledge, it's also shared. So we're competing and we're collaborating at the same time. So let's practice. How would you describe any of these people? And just one word adjectives, smart, intelligent, trustworthy, nice. As you can see, the word starts to show up, and we're noticing you might put words, attributes that won't be accepted, will be rejected. That's just simply because there's a limit to how many we can get.
But do we associate a word with a person, or we just throw words?
Let's throw words out.
Okay.
Like for everybody. This is the beginning of the lesson. So the game is the beginning of the lesson, right? So the game is the beginning of the lesson. So we have smart and fake. Now we don't know who's smart and fake yet, but we're just building a sort of a repository of the adjectives or the attributes that we'd use to describe these people. So this is the game. This is in a typical lesson, or in this particular lesson, the teacher will start the game, students play. Typically they'll be playing in groups, Roxanne. So everybody's kind of working together. And then once we get enough adjectives, I had in the database 139 adjectives. So once we get enough, like the teacher will decide what's enough, but you can decide maybe 10 is enough, maybe 15 is enough, maybe 20 is enough, or maybe you can play a time. You say, we're going to play for 5 minutes and see how many adjectives we're going to come up with. And then once that is done, we're going to show you how the lesson will sort of progress, right? So we'll give you a minute or two to come up with the adjectives to describe. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting, but I'll just put the screen of the folks right here. So you can see them. It's Johnny Depp, President Obama, Michelle Obama, Trump, Shakira. In a typical class, you'll feel like students, if they're working individually, they're awfully quiet, but they're absolutely engaged. So kind of the beauty of it is like students are typically on their phones, but you kind of reframe that. Now they're on their phones using something for the class. So they're awfully like quiet-ish, but they're active. If you put them in groups, then you feel like it's a hive, like everybody's, participating or sharing words and so on. And it's kind of creates a different dynamic for the class. So we have now 11 adjectives or attributes have been identified so far. And in the class, like right now, everybody's seeing the words that are appearing on the screen, but they're also showing up on your device, right? So if you're on the play page, you'll see those words coming up. So if I participate a word, say, so there's 139. I should remember one of them, right? Fake is already found, right? How about famous? Famous already found, all right. Star. All right, so we got star. So if I contributed a word, it shows up on everybody's page. So it's like I'm competing, but we're also collaborating, right? So we're like, at the end of the day, all of those words that you see on the play side, those are actually active Google links now. So if a student is sitting in the class and they don't know a word, let's say they don't know the word arrogant, if they click on it, it takes them to a Google search where they can see the definition, where they can see the pronunciation, right? So it's like the class is working together to create a word list on steroids, because you have those active words that allow you to go to Google and search them. And this actually stays active on their devices even after the game is over. It's like students can sort of still continue to use this vocab for later activities, if that makes sense. So let's see, we are on how many right now? All right, so what do you think? So let's say, do you need more time? Should I give you like a couple more minutes or a couple more minutes? All right,
Yeah, a few more minutes. I'm trying to get adjectives that are, let's see.
At the end of this, I'll show you the list. Obviously, this is my list. Like a different teacher would pick a different list. I didn't put obviously all the attributes in the world because it makes it unwieldy. But you can also limit to certain characters. And you can limit to certain adjectives if you want. But
it's fascinating though to as a way of seeing how students think about these particular public figures, right? So, like, what are they coming up with? Let's see. Intelligent.
I'll give you hints. Think of someone you can trust or can't trust. There you go. Now, believe me, if we're playing groups, it'll be way, way much more fun. Like if, you know, if we had, like, say 15 colleagues, and then we have groups of 5, and the competition would be much, much higher. And this is the same thing in the class. When the students played in groups, it's just a completely different dynamic. But, you know, it doesn't take from the fact that you still have sort of a pre-discussion activity, because this is the pre-discussion activity in the lesson that I kind of created for this particular activity.
It's Obama, Messi, Shakira, and Johnny Depp. Those are the
Yeah,
4.
there's I had so Obama, Shakira, Trump, Michelle
Oh,
Obama,
Trump. Oh, okay. I forgot about him. Okay. Oh, Michelle Obama. Okay.
Debbie, Johnny Depp, Kim Kardashian, Lionel Messi, and Oprah Winfrey.
Okay. Uh,
All right, I think let's just take a pause. Give everybody a round of applause for playing, and congratulations to the top 3 active B contributors, Elena, Intelligent, and Abir. Again, this is just like, you know, typically you want to give the students at least who scored in the top 3, maybe the top 4. Again, in terms of groups, everybody will still on top. You still have the top 3 groups, and so, you know, typical class maybe have like 5 groups. So you get more people, you know, getting some recognition, but that's really not the part. Now, the part of the class is this. So the teacher now gets this list of words that students co-created. Remember, the students co-created this list based on, some students might have Googled things like, how do you say the word this in Spanish? Or how do you say this in Spanish? So say I want to think of Johnny Depp as like hardworking, I don't know, or talented, and I didn't know the word talented in Spanish. So it's like, what is talented in Spanish? So the students are searching, they're actively searching information to come back and play the game. So they spent a lot of time coming up with this list. So now as a teacher would say, okay, we have this list now. So you have the word arrogant. Who just, you know, which of the characters do you think the word arrogant describe? And maybe the person who picked it up say, I would say Johnny Depp is arrogant. So tell me why. And then they'll have to model the sentence. So Johnny Depp is arrogant because, and then they'll have to come up with their own answers. Like, again, the idea is you're not limiting them to a particular answer. You're kind of modeling language use, but you're also giving them an open-ended way of answering the question. So any answer they provide, obviously they'll be okay, because the students are really giving you their opinion on why this person is that, so this or that. You can pick, again, any of the adjectives. You can turn it around and say, okay, we're going to start with this person, maybe Barack Obama. Think of all the adjectives that you think would describe Barack Obama. Now the students do not have to come up with the words because they already worked on them, right? So that part has been done. They start to say, okay, I think Barack Obama is brave, maybe famous, friendly, funny, hardworking, intelligent, sensitive, I don't know, like trustworthy, whatever, right? And so on. So you generate students worked early on in the class to generate the words, and now they're using it actively to engage in discussion about, public figures or public discussions, public policy, whatever it is that you want them to talk about. So that's kind of a demonstration of how it works. Now,
can I ask
go
one
ahead.
question?
Sure.
So okay, so say you're doing this in a Spanish, second semester, what would be our 1020 at Tulane? Would you, and part of it, they've learned to use the adjectives with ser, and you've taught, the interrogative words so that they can understand questions. Would you phrase it as like, you show a picture of Obama and you have this, and then I have a question about Obama versus Trump too. That's a separate question. You would have the list of adjectives that everybody came up with on the screen, and so their options. So, por ejemplo, como en su opinión, como es Obama, right? Like, and then they would be able to then create it. So you're actually having it be a dialogue, or how would you? Yeah. Okay.
So the first part of the game is they created this list. This list is showing up on your end as a teacher, but it's also showing up on everybody's play portal. Like those are
they're contributing rather than us giving them adjectives. They're actually coming out. It makes them part. That's great. So and my question, about Obama versus Trump, I tend to advise, language instructors to stay away from the political, right? Because you never know. And so I'm wondering if you've ever encountered, because the next thing you know, someone who is a Trump forever person is sitting in your classroom, or their parents are, or whatever. Do you ever have you encountered that ever in your classroom, or have
I honestly, this is a demo lesson. I haven't taught public figures, so this is for us because I thought this is an audience where you can get a different perspective on different people, right?
Right. No, I was just wondering because I learned the hard way, way back when I started teaching, right? But it's so polarizing now, right? The whole Trump, one wants to think, of course, at the classroom, but every now there are these little surprises that pop up.
You can make it as controversial as you want to. I mean,
or not, right? Yeah, or keep it with Johnny Depp, or
right.
Within
even if you wanna, even if you're a teacher who's brave enough to want to be controversial. I mean, I think if you can't be controversial in college, when will you be controversial? But
I agree with you 100%. But then you get all this.
No, I hear you. I served as chair for 7 years. I've seen my fair share of things.
I'm sure.
The nice thing about it, at least in this way, though, you're saying so students are not directly saying in this particular, as a teacher, you may want to, if you get a lot of sort of positive, attributes and some negative attributes, maybe you if you feel like the class isn't cooperative, or maybe you don't feel comfortable.
It depends on the class.
Yeah,
in a debate class, right? A conversation class at a higher level, what in Spanish would be our 2040, right? Where they have to be able to also debate, right? And defend. Because I agree with you 100%. We should be teaching them, right? How to back up their arguments, how to think critically, right? But I was just curious about the Obama, because I see Trump and I have such a visceral reaction. None of my adjectives actually showed up. They probably were not okay. And I just have to say, Elena, 67, bravissima. I mean, wow, that's a lot. You got a lot of them.
So, no, she didn't get 67. She got 67 points.
Okay, not 67, but she's still she's ahead of all the rest of us.
Now, remember, here's the thing, though. Even if you don't want to shy away from a controversial class, what you can do in the discussion in the class, you can focus on the positive adjectives. So I'll say, for example, who do you think is hardworking? And they'll say maybe Obama. Maybe they'll say Kim Kardashian's hardworking. Okay, why? So they'll ask that at the end of the class. You can ask them for an activity. And that's actually the third part of the lesson. Let me share with you the page.
They love talking about pop culture. I will say that. And I've learned a lot about why Kim Kardashian is so ubiquitous. She's so everywhere for my students because I don't get it. But
so, for part 3, so if you still want students to use those other adjectives for the certain people that you think, maybe we should describe them that way. That's where it comes for part 3. So after instruction and practice end, this is what the students do at the end of the class. So they create a collage they pick their favorite person, they'll pick the adjectives that they feel they describe this person, and they'll use images that show this person, why they're hardworking, why they're, not trustworthy, why they're So, and then after all of that, they put it on a Padlet where everybody gets to see. So you get to showcase. You can do that if you feel like adventurous and you want to feel like, I want students to showcase their work. I don't want to censor my students. You can do that, but you can also do it in an essay or like a worksheet where the students, okay, now pick your favorite characters. Tell me why you think they're so. And the students would have to sort of simply like a short paragraph about them. Like the idea here is that the students co-created the words, worked together on them, competed, they were engaged. Then there was some time for the class for them to discuss it. So they're using language in an authentic setting. And then after that, they continued to work with those kind of attributes. So a lot of it is technology involved, but it's still pedagogically within the pedagogical, framework that we typically, espouse in second language education. So it's all kind of, you're allowing students to show their knowledge and language ability in a lot of different ways. You're just being inclusive. You're not just saying like, oh, only the top students will do this. You're allowing everybody to participate in any way they feel like they can participate. So
This is great. Yeah.
So here's the list that I had. Okay, this is the list I had in Spanish. Let me actually show you the ones that heading. So this is the list in English. This is the list that you were looking at. I mean, you're choosing from. So I had like 130 maybe. You can put up to 200, but again, you don't want to, go overboard because it gets a little unwieldy. But these are some of the adjectives. Now again, there might be instances.
Is that you're teaching vocabulary too, which is one of the most difficult things to teach people how to teach, right? So if you're teaching, language, second language acquisition, you're teaching, language teaching methodology, trying to show people how to teach vocabulary. This is a great way. I mean, it's obviously incorporated in everyday class if you're teaching in the target language, but this I like because it's expanding very specific, adjectives with the verb ser or estar or,
Right. And remember, those words on the play side, those are active links and they stay active as long as the students have that page on their phone or their computer. Like this page does not really expire. The game expires after 7 days, meaning students can't provide any more words, but you can also, this game stays active. So if you want the students to continue to find more words, even after the class is over, this game is actually active. So a student can go and can continuously provide answers. And this is actually something that I noticed by accident. I had my students play, I was teaching them, we're trying to sort of recall the vocab we talked about when it comes to Arabic food. So I gave them exactly the same thing. I say, here, let's come up with as many words as we can think of that have to do with food that I taught you. So we played it on a Friday, like maybe the last 20 minutes in class, and the class was over and I felt like, okay, that's fine. On the weekend, my students are emailing me and saying, Dr. Amer, your game is rigged. I'm like, why do you think my game is rigged? I'm like, this is strange. A student saying that. I mean, it showed me like they cared so much. But 2 students in my class were competing and they were putting words that are not in the database or not in the repository. I'm like, what words were you saying? Like, what words were you entering? And then they started saying, like, let's say celery. Well, I didn't teach you celery in Arabic. This is not like especially for Arabic 101. I'm teaching you tomatoes, potatoes, little things, right? And I said, well, I didn't teach you celery. Where did you come up with it? Like he said, I went on, she said, I went on Google and I started coming up with all these Arabic words to try to put them. I'm like, I specifically limited the vocabby to words I taught you. So you're supposed to be remembering those are the ones I taught you. So the fact that the students are actually doing this on a Saturday, even after the class was over, kind of showed me like there's still engagement can still continue, especially if you kind of create those kinds of groups that like to compete with one another. Again, try to keep it like sort of a friendly way to compete. But again, at the end of the day, the groups, even though they're competing, everybody's words show up together. So everybody is, in a sense, co-constructing that kind of knowledge. Everybody's creating those words. And the fact that they remain active links allows students to come back and check their, their recognitions or their definitions if they need to.
So you could have an assignment technically where they, not so much something to do on a full asynchronous day, but an assignment where they have to go in at some point within the next few days and add a few more words, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And you come back together in the class and put it into practice, like, yeah. Okay.
Imagine this game, we only found 22. Let's say the same class we found 22. We say, okay, if you get to 100, I'll give everybody in class 5 additional points. Everybody's going to be working on this after class, right? Because they want to get that 5 points. And the fact that everybody's working they have they technically feel like they're getting closer as long as they're working together on that task. So it's certainly something that this doesn't mean the learning stops. For this particular activity, you're doing something else with those attributes. But for that particular class, you can certainly say, and here's a bonus, get to 100, find 100, and I'll give everybody something, extra credit or something.
And it can be on their own schedule. The
It
issue
can be
sometimes with the
absolutely
extra,
on their
yeah,
schedule, yes.
the
And it's
extra
open
credit
for
is
7
that-
days, so they have 7 days to do it.
excellent. No, and this is available. This is free. Like we can
Yeah.
access this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you see who's participating when you create, or no, you can't?
You
Okay,
can see it from the leaderboard.
okay.
I see the people that I see on the leaderboard. Like, if you see the leaderboard here, these are the people that I know. That's part of it. Like,
See your
that's part of,
class, yeah.
like, do you require them to sign in, or do you know? I said, let's keep it like this, because even those students who participated and couldn't remember, if I were a part of this group and I tried to participate and I couldn't, like, let's say I put some words that didn't show up, I participated, but I'm not on the leaderboard. Now the leaderboard puts everybody there. Like, it doesn't just put the top 10 or the top 20, it just puts really everybody, right? But you could have participated and still not show up on the leaderboard. So in a way, you don't know, like, if they did or did not technically. And even for the students who, to say they get a word or not, you never know if they're actually adding words or not. But for what it is, it's a nice way to get students working. You know, I mean, this is like when I tried it in class, when I play vocabulary in class, for the first part of it, students are awfully quiet, but I know they're working because I see the answers show up on the board, right? Like what that's sort of the evidence that we have is like they're involved. But when it's in groups, there's a little bit more hum. Because like they're working together, they're answering, they're asking each other, like, just try this word, let's try this word, let's try this word. So they're really engaged. And this is exactly this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're not trying to solve all of language education. We're trying to solve the problem of being in class and getting them engaged. And hopefully, once you create that culture of gamification in the class, students kind of start to expect to be, like, we're going to do this. I feel like more involved in this. And it doesn't have to be always games, of course. Like, I'm just saying. But we have the tools. So again, we have some tools that we can use to engage students. And if that engagement leads to more engagement or more connection or more community building within the students, that's all the better. That's all what we're here for. Sounds good? All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing now. The business of creating a vocabulary is pretty straightforward. I'm gonna show you like how to create everybody's seeing the page, right? Again. So if you want to create a new vocabulary, technically you can just, if you come to the main page here, you click on create. I'm already joined, but if you're not, it will ask you to join. So let me, let's say, click join. Technically, it would, if you already signed into Gmail, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to use your Gmail to sign? That's the easiest way to sign. You don't have to create a password. You don't create passwords for vocabulary. You just use their email to join. If you have Gmail, you'll activate via Gmail like this. And you're automatically signed in. If you don't want to use a Gmail sign in, you get you get a code sent to your email to sort of log in. So, and it's always like that. You don't have a password to remember or to create. So it's simple as that. Once you get to this page, it's really straightforward. You type the words that you want them to be considered playable. Like, these are the words for this particular lesson. Like, think of words that you can use to describe the weather, for example. So this is like a simple lesson here, but you can type as many words as up to 200. Each vocabulary is limited to 200. And this is not like a limitation in technology. It's like a limitation in server space. The bigger, if you want to upgrade to bigger servers, it's going to be more money. But typically, almost every game shouldn't be more than really 200 vocab points. You can give them a title, like instructions, or give it a title. If there are a language where the students you suspect may not necessarily have like a certain diacritic or a certain accent or a certain letter on their keyboard, you can actually provide the options here. Actually going to do this in French in a minute. And then you'll see students can just use the keyboard on the game interface without having to use the keyboard on their phones or on their computers. So you can give them those kinds of options. But other than that, really, it's just like that. Typing the words, giving it a title, it's optional. The letters are optional. Just click create a vocabby, and just like that, it prepares it, creates a unique room ID, students scan it, and we start playing. And this is something I've kind of, when I've worked with, again, I've been in this teacher education program for 4 or 5 years now. The teachers I work with are, I mean, we know teachers are overworked, so they want something that's quick. They want something that's kind of plug and play, right? They do invest their time in some bigger projects, but they typically want technology that kind of, let me kind of use this for this 10, 15 minutes in class. So it's kind of designed with that, like there's a little bit of this philosophical, like, simple but focused activities that maximize learning as much as possible. And once you create vocabbies, you can go to your account and they'll be there. So you can just easily recreate them. So if I want to recreate the ones we just did together, I click on it and bam, I have all the words here. And I can recreate it again for a different audience. So for the next one we're going to do, we're going to create, so we're going to play. So this is another way in which I've used vocabbies. So students listen to a song in a second language, so like, let's say a French song. We're going to do a French song, and they have to come up with the words. Like if usually you pick a song at the level that they're in. So, and then as they listen to the song, they try to identify the words. It's a kind of nice way to bring music and culture and vocab into a learning experience. The one I've picked here, I don't know if you've heard it before, but let me actually stop sharing, get it ready so you don't see the lyrics. And then we'll play it again. And I have another one for Arabic where we teach sort of pronouns. So my account.
I would love to see the Arabic one too, even though our Arabic program directors aren't here.
Okay.
So yeah.
We'll do that one then. And we'll do both. Give me 1 second here. Nobody's seeing my screen, right? All right. So I'm going to do a quick share screen. I don't know if you guys heard this song before. But here's the game we're playing right now. So we're playing, where did it go here? So I have a new game now, all right? So we're playing another vocabby. This is a new, different code. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. And this is an example where you can sort of bring music to the class and teach vocab through music. So join, type a user screen name, and then once you're ready and you give me a thumbs up, I'll play the music. And we'll see how many words you can identify from the song Sympathique by Pink Martini. If anybody heard it, but are we ready? Okay, I'll just play it. Tell me, just give me a thumbs up if you hear audio on my computer.
Forme d'une page, le soleil passe son bras par la fenêtre. Les chasseurs à ma porte comme les petits soldats qui veulent me prendre. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement oublier et puis je fume. Déjà j'ai connu le parfum de l'amour. Un million de roses n'embâmerait pas autant. Maintenant, une seule fleur dans mes entourages me rend malade. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement oublier et puis je fume. Je ne suis pas fière de sa vie qui veut me tuer. C'est magnifique être sympathique, mais je ne le connais jamais. Je ne veux pas travailler, non, je ne veux pas déjeuner. Je veux seulement oublier et puis je fume. Je ne suis pas fière de sa vie qui veut me tuer. C'est magnifique être sympathique, mais je ne le connais jamais. Je ne veux pas travailler, non, je ne veux pas déjeuner. Je veux seulement oublier. Et puis je fume.
All right. Right. So, comments, questions? Again, this is like I like this one particularly to showcase in my demos usually because it has, you know, basic verbs. Like I don't want to work, I don't want to play, and it features the negation like in French. So, you know, so it's kind of a nice way to practice that or students to see that in action. Again, this is something that you can set as an activity where say, on this particular day, you're gonna do this vocabby or you have to listen to the song. You know, students typically can look up the lyrics, so you can always, students have always they can always figure out a way to do, to use different strategies to win the game, but it's a nice way to, at the end of the game though, everybody learns the lyrics, so everybody can practice them. So even if a student, you know, looks up the lyrics and types them in, at the end of the day, if you think about it from the play page, everybody's getting those links. So if I click on again on this one, I'm able to see what the definition is and what it means and all that good stuff. So comments or questions. Now the second one we're going to do is for Arabic, the same way, where because typically there isn't enough time in the class to show Arabic music. Because, you know, you're working on vocab, you're working on grammar, you're working on reading comprehension and practicing. So this is a nice way to show grammar in context through music. So this one is a similar song. I don't want to create a vocabby for it because I don't think we have enough people who will be able to do it. But this is an example where you can see this is one famous song by Fairuz. I don't know if anybody's familiar. I'm sure Abir knows. But this is a song that features a lot of different types of pronouns in Arabic. You know, possessive pronouns, object pronouns, subject pronouns, and even though it's Lebanese, it's like sung in the Levantine Arabic. It's kind of close to the standard, anyways. Like you can figure it out even if you're teaching standard Arabic. This is an example that can easily allow students to listen and see how the Arabic words are used in music. So and I have the lesson here again. If you want to share with your teachers who teach Arabic, these are the words the students will be able to sort of identify. And these are like the highlighted ones are the ones that are like the pronouns being used in context. So again, it's a nice way to introduce students to this. And you can even like teaching grammar can still be fun if you think of these creative ways of making it a game, but also playing a song and doing all that. Let's just kind of listen to maybe a little bit of it and see. And I'll every time she'll see a pronoun, you'll see me like I do a thumbs up. So if you see how frequent they are in the song, just just pay attention, and I'll do a thumbs up on my own here.
علموني اللي علموني على حب فتحوا لي عيوني والتقينا وانحكى علينا علموني حبك ولموني.
So far, 11 instances.
ورد قلبي كيف كنت أو كان العمر عايزة من ورد قلبي كيف كنت أو كان العمر علموني على حبك فتحوا لي عيوني والتقينا وانحكى علينا علموني حبك ولموني. يا عصفور الشوق أهلك بها السما وما تعرف يا عصفور الشوق أهلك بها السما وما بعرف علموني على حبك فتحوا لي عيوني والتقينا وانحكى علينا علموني حبك ولموني. يا حبك ولموني.
So as you've seen, I've kept counting them, but some of them kept repeating because the lyrics repeat. So it's a nice way for students to not only hear them once, but hear them more than once and see them in context. And in the typical game, what the students will be doing is they'll be sort of trying to identify those pronouns and kind of typing them. So you're gamifying the experience. Students are working together to come up with those particular answers. So every student competing, but every student is participating with the class creating the answers. So it's a nice way to introduce grammar in a non-traditional way, so to speak. So
I want to say something. And we can share this with those who couldn't attend today. I love this because the standard way of incorporating songs into the classroom is just the fill in the blank, what it's listening comprehension, and then it's visual. So you're able to, I'm going to ask also what the song is about, right? Because she seems to be in this castle type thing and walking down to the, but I'm sure that the students in Arabic would understand that. But it's visual, but they're also writing. If they're not immediately typing in, they're also writing down. So they're having the listening comprehension translate to what they're hearing, and then they're also inputting. So there's a certain element of typing it on the computer. I think it's fantastic. It's a really innovative way of approaching songs that is interactive and then community based, but also is working on the skills, right? Listening and then writing. So
and I agree with what you said 100%, because I also believe we don't get to teach a lot of like Fairuz is an icon in the Arab world, in the like a music icon, like like nobody in the Arab world has never heard of her, like listened to her song, and not only listen, but every single day. I don't know, in different parts of the Arab world, like every morning in Jordan, we wake up, we're listening to her songs, like from 7 in the morning till 12, and then
Like Taylor Swift, right here in the US, all the students know Taylor Swift.
it's
No,
just
but
it's
this
just
is
like
crucial. Yeah.
and you don't get to do that. Like you don't get to do that. And the nice thing about doing it in this kind of vocabby fashion is you don't. I mean, some people say, "Look, I don't have enough class time to do this." It's like that's fine. You can still do it outside of the class. That's the kind of nice thing about it. Students can still get involved. You can play maybe 1 song, 2 songs in class like that, and then the other activities could be something like that. So the activities, they do not have to be like, there's the whole idea of what exists on the web. There's so much information. There's so much content. There's so much authentic content, authentic media that's available that can be easily taken advantage of, where the students can play together outside of the class, compete, collaborate, co-create, and learn, which is the kind of the main key of the activity.
I want to say one more thing, which is just that I think also you could use it as also a cultural comparison, right? For students to say, what kind of video are we seeing here? How does this differ from maybe some of the music videos that you watch about, I don't know, Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, whoever it is that they know all these musicians that I have never heard of, but it allows for a cultural comparison, right? Like what do you notice that's different? Even the tempo, the setting, the dancing, the clothing, right? So it allows sort of an entry point into a cultural discussion.
For the teachers teaching, the sky's the limit to what you can go with it. You're certainly right. You can definitely infuse all these different elements of cultural comparisons. Even the setting. I mean, the context for the song is I think it's Abir, correct me if I'm wrong, like what, mid 80s ish, maybe something.
Yeah. Early,
early, that's early 80s. So again, like they can even think about like the time, like we can show them like a song from that time, and then a current song in that in the Arab world, and they can see the start. So yeah, you can go with it in any directions that you think, and that's the nice thing about it. It's like the teacher really has the ability to configure these kinds of activities any way they wish.
And just as a follow-up, I think it's like, I mean, it's very amazing. So thank you for that. I usually ask them to write down the words that they understand, and so you never know. And some of them are going to give the answers, but like now we, can hold them accountable to make sure that, they can guess at least one word. So yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. All right, so I'm cognizant of the time. You want to play Jeopardy? All right, let's play Jeopardy. Now we're going to switch to a Jeopardy. Now I created a Jeopardy for the first of the class. Last time when I was in IELTS, I created a Jeopardy that bombed. I tried to use trivia about New Orleans, and it's like almost the questions are too difficult. Nobody could answer them. I felt terrible. So this time I kept it simple, like kind of as simple as they come. So hopefully this will get us excited. But remember, when you typically would play a Jeopardy in the class, and I'll tell you a little bit about Jeopardy. Like when we do classes and students prepare for an exam, usually we do like a quick review and the students would ask questions. Students typically are not as communicative as you would like them, like, what's on the exam. So you give them a lot of information, but they don't, like, there isn't an opportunity to say, are you ready for the exam? Like, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to solve this? Do you know to recall these concepts? So when I did the Jeopardy with the class, the first time I did it, I created the questions, of course, and students struggled with it because they would pick on questions, they would know it, they'll pick on different questions, they wouldn't know it. So I said, okay, let's do it differently now. So the first time I played it, it didn't really work well. It was fun for the students who were active and knew the content, but for the rest of the students, they were not as involved. The second time around, we crowdsourced the learning experience. We said, okay, I don't want to create the questions. I want to create 50% of the questions. So I created a Google form where students come up with questions about the concepts or the chapters that we've studied. Say we covered 4 chapters. Okay, I say, write 5 questions that you would like to see on the Jeopardy game. Excuse me. So they would create, so they would go to the Google form, they'll they'll do this like as a chore. They'll write the questions, and it actually was hard for them to write the questions. Like, how do you write 5 questions about an exam that you're going to take? That actually forced them to think of like, okay, what did I learn from this content? Like, what is it, the questions that I want to ask? So I asked them to do this, and I also asked them to write a reflective essay, very short, like, how did the experience go of you creating your own questions? Students said something like, it was hard because I knew so much, I didn't know which 5 questions to pick. Initially, they didn't know how to pick questions. They just went with the first 5 easy questions, and they put them in different iterations of the game. We said, okay, let's be a bit more intentional, a bit more creative. Think of questions that are really capture a concept that we learned. So once I get, I had a class of 25 students, everyone submitted 5 questions. I ended up with a decent large database of questions. I had also my own questions. So we selected, I did a little curation. I created the questions, and then we played it again in groups, and it was a completely different experience. Now, everybody who contributed a question was hoping to see if their questions are going to be on the Jeopardy, because they didn't know. They can see only the categories, and they can see the amount of money associated for each question. And I even give an option, like, if you think your question is worthy of being like a daily double, just mark it as such. So students marked a lot of daily doubles that should not be daily doubles. But it was fun walking through the experience with them. When we played it, it was just so much fun that they started expecting it before every class, before every exam, say, can we please review this using the Jeopardy? What I learned, aside from the fact that it was really an engaging class experience and everybody sort of participated and felt involved, I learned about the way I teach from the way they asked me the questions. So when initially everybody was submitting the question, I'm like, why is everybody asking about that question? It turned out that's the concept I probably spent a lot more time explaining in class. But there are other concepts that students didn't even ask about, which I covered. So the whole experience helped me identify areas that I probably should cover this differently, or I should probably focus on this concept more, because nobody seems to be asking about it. So when those questions still showed up on the Jeopardy, because I still wanted them to show up, students and I would ask the class, like, I'd pause the game, why didn't you guys ask those questions? So it was a way to have a conversation about, what are we learning? Why are we choosing to be tested on this? And why this is not something I'm choosing to be tested on? It was just an eye-opening really experience to how the way students were asking me, like, I want these questions to be on the exam. It was showing how I was actually teaching the class. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like students picked the concepts that we spent more time discussing and avoided things that they didn't feel comfortable with, which allowed me to focus on those concepts in the Jeopardy. Because the Jeopardy is a game, nobody's going to lose, but the exam is an exam, so they could really not do well, and I wanted them to do very well. So I'll play a Jeopardy that I created, but I'll show you how it can be created using Google Forms and all that good stuff. Any questions before we start? All right, so I'm going to share my... for this, we're going to use everybody has their phone. They can use them, right? Okay. So again, there'll be a QRC code. You got to use it's going to be a different portal, but same thing. You type a screen name, log in, join the game, and then we'll start playing the game. Again, typically would have this done in groups, but because we're just like a small crowd, we're going to do it differently. So let's see. Everybody's seeing my desktop. Okay. So these are the questions I used for the demo. I click on them. This is the QRC code you want to use to join. I think that's, yep, that's all this. All right. So this is like a regular Jeopardy. For those who haven't played it before, I think Abi and Roxanne might have seen it. But this is like a real Jeopardy where once the question is seen, like once the card shows up with the question, on the portal, you click buzz in, like you have to click on the buzz in. That's how you get first. So all those clicks go to the server, and the server counts which one was first, and the one who's first, that's the one that gets to answer that question. So I kept it into 3 simple categories: apps, like learning apps that we use to learn linguistics, very, very famous concepts in linguistics, and power users is the category that refers to how advanced tech people use, like shortcuts, how to copy things and paste things and all that good stuff. So these are the basic questions. Hopefully it won't be too difficult, but if there are, well, we're just playing, so nothing here to lose except just have fun, right? Since Elena, correct? Elena was the earlier vocabby. Should we allow her to go first? Okay, so Elena will tell me which category and the value, and then once I click on that, now everybody else, you don't have to wait for her to answer. If you see the question and you think you can answer it, buzz into play. Sounds good? Now, I don't know if there might be some daily doubles. Daily doubles are a little different. You have to wager the whole amount. So if it's a 500-point question, all of them have to be. You can't pick and choose. Just say all of it or none of it. So, Elena, go ahead.
Linguistics 300.
Linguistics 300. Around 350 million people speak it around the world, and it's the 6th most spoken language in the world. Roxanne. Oh, is it Roxanne?
It is. Okay, so do I then do it verbally? I don't type in my question?
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys just say it verbally.
Okay, what is Portuguese?
Is it? It's actually Arabic.
Oh, is it Arabic? Okay, maybe Portuguese has dropped then. Okay, it used to be the 6th most spoken. Okay.
How did you get to answer? Because I don't see anything I can do on my phone.
So it should say buzz into play.
Yeah, when I click, it says that I'm already buzzed in, but nothing changes on my screen here.
Maybe Roxanne buzzed a little sooner than you did.
Oh, I need to click on the black banner.
Yes.
That's how you get, that's how you, like in a real Jeopardy. I actually had to research the actual Jeopardy to understand how it worked. This is actually a little different from the real Jeopardy. The real Jeopardy is you have to wait until the question has already been fully asked. Like in a real Jeopardy, every player has a clicker, right? That's how they click. But if they click sooner than Alex Trebek finished the question, they actually get delayed like some milliseconds. So it's really milliseconds, because especially if it's a question that everyone wants to answer, everybody's going to click quickly. So you might feel like I just clicked, but someone else had already clicked. This is not the same technology. This is a server-based technology, obviously, because we can't be physically wirely connected to the mainframe. So what you do is you click, and the server captures the stamp of the second you clicked on your phone. So it doesn't really wait for it to go to the server. It just sees if you clicked the minute you clicked, technically. So, does that make sense? So, but yeah, if you're ready to answer, just quickly ready to answer.
And it is Arabic. I just looked it up. So Portuguese has dropped to number 9. So it used to be 6. So Arabic is.
We're still gonna give you the points. We're just starting. We're gonna give you the points.
I think it was wrong. I was wrong. I should know that.
All right. So we double clicked. I got you 300 more points. All right. So Roxanne, you're on the board. You pick.
Okay, let's do linguistics for 400.
If you studied phonetics, you should be able to read this. Elena?
Just a second, I was unmuting myself. Inconvenient truth.
It has to be in a question.
Say again.
It's a real Jeopardy. It has to be in a question, like what is an inconvenient truth?
So I need to provide an answer to that?
No, just say what is an
question,
inconvenient truth.
So you in Jeopardy, which is this famous game in the United States, everything when you buzz in, you have to, this is the answer that we're given, and so you have to ask the question. So it's a great way to practice question formation. So
okay.
So you'd say what is an inconvenient truth?
Does that make sense? So you would say, what is an inconvenient truth?
Mhm.
All right. So Elena, you're on the board. You pick.
So what was the question that I should have asked?
No, so you answered correctly. It's the answer is, what is an inconvenient truth?
Okay.
So like if the answer was blue, like let's say the question was something that the answer would be blue. In Jeopardy, they would answer the question by asking, say, what is blue? I think that's how they do it. Why do they do it that way, Roxanne? I don't know what's the reason.
I have no idea. It's
Okay.
just because it's actually goes against logic, right? Like you would
To throw
answer
you off. I think they
probably
throw you
to add
off.
another cognitive, process. I will say this though, back to the early 2000s, this has been a great way. This is a highly sophisticated way and a much better way, but just for interrogative words, this is
Yes.
like the perfect setup.
Yes. Actually, in my language classes, I only played Jeopardy, this actual iteration of Jeopardy, twice, and it was a lesson on question formations. So students actually see an image of someone doing something in Arab, and then they'd have to say the equivalent of what does he do, or what is he eating, or where does he work, if it's a place of work, or that sort of thing, or if it's like an amount of money, how much is he spending on this? And it turned out like you said, it's a natural way to practice interrogative devices, because the students would have to answer using a question. I think Elena, it's still
Okay, apps 200.
apps 200. An app that allows students to practice their spelling and vocab ability. Roxanne. I didn't hear you. Did you say something?
What is vocabby?
What's vocab works? What is spelling bee works? All of those are correct answers. Roxanne, you're on the board.
I'm getting competitive now. Okay. What is, let's do apps for 400.
Apps for 400. An app that allows students to play games in the class against each other and score points. Charles.
What is Kahoot?
What is Kahoot? You're right. Charles, you're on the board.
All right, I'm going to try linguistics for 500.
Linguistics for 500. He coined the term poverty of the stimulus. Charles.
Who is Chomsky?
Who is Chomsky? You're on the board. Charles.
Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, I'm cheating because I would do power uses for 300.
Power users for 300. You empty this when your hard drive is full. Roxanne. I saw your lips saying, "What's a trash can?" But I
Yes,
think
what is your trash can, your trash bin on your computer?
what do they call that? Recycle bin or something?
Right, well, oh, yeah, yeah. No,
Roxanne,
on the Mac,
it's
the Mac,
trash.
it's
On the Mac,
trash.
it's trash. Yeah.
We're not up to date with sustainability.
Roxanne, you're on the board.
Okay, let's do power users for 400.
Power users. Shortcut for pasting text across applications. Roxanne.
What is clipboard?
So what is the keyboard combination to do that?
For cutting and paste, well, it would be command C.
That's for copying.
Okay, so what am I doing? Oh, for pasting, command V.
Command V. What is command or?
What is command V? See, so this is, yeah, like, and you have to teach me the interrogatives, but this is great because then you can ask a student to reframe it, right?
So what is command V or what is control V if you're on a PC?
Right.
Roxanne, you're on the board.
Let's do apps for 500.
Apps for 500. Oh, nice. Very good. A web-based technology that allows students to share their work and collaborate. Roxanne.
Sorry, I'm going. What is Google Docs?
What is Google Docs? Excellent. All right, Roxanne, you're on the board.
What is, let's do power users for 500.
Power users for 500. Shortcut for opening new documents. Roxanne.
I waited this time to give everyone else a chance to be. What is Command N?
Command N, correct. Command N, that's right. Or
I had to look at my
Control N.
keyboard. Yeah.
All right. Roxanne, you're on the board.
Let's do apps for 300.
Apps for 300. An app that allows students to learn a language on the go. It's the most downloaded language learning app ever. Charles.
What is Duolingo?
What is Duolingo? You got it, Charles. You're on the board.
Sorry. So Linguistics 100.
1 or 2?
One. Let's do one.
Linguistics for 100. In linguistics, it refers to the field that examines the systematic study of meaning. Charles?
What is semantics?
What is semantics? Charles?
So linguistics 200.
The study of sentence structure in a language.
What,
Charles?
what is syntax?
What is
Ah!
syntax?
I'm sorry.
Charles,
You
you're on the
beat
board.
me to the buzzer.
All right. Well, maybe this one you'll get it again. Power users for 200?
Power users for 200. A place where browser data is saved. Charles?
What is history?
History is correct.
Okay.
Also cache. The cache would also.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was going to say. What is cache? Yeah.
Okay. Charles, you're on the board.
Right. So apps for 100.
Apps for 100. It's technology that allows teachers to track students' grades and other learning content. Elena,
What is Canvas?
what is Canvas? What is D2L? Any LMS? Excellent. Lena, you're on the board.
Okay, so the last one, power use.
A function that makes it easy to search any document quickly. Abir,
Find.
what is find? Excellent.
What is
All
find?
right. What is find?
Finally, I was quick enough.
Congratulations, Roxanne. Some confetti
I-
going your way.
This is, I'm competitive, right? I think we all are, right? But it's like, it really gets you going. And so you're just thinking about, okay, being quick cognitively, right? And so at least linguistically, the students aren't necessarily thinking about grammar, which is what we want. They're just going to start producing, right? In a way that is communicative because they're focusing and then they have to ask a question as if they were in a game. This is fantastic. I think this experience of actually doing it shows us what we would aspire to with the students, right? It as opposed to, yeah.
This is exactly what the students feel too. Like this is the kind of emotions, the range of emotions, like, oh, frustration, but happiness, but community, especially the playing in groups. It changes the whole dynamic of the class. And again, it brings students closer to one another. This is the whole idea of technology that's bringing us together, not separating us. So that's the whole idea of how can we really capitalize on that in the classroom. I love playing Jeopardy in the classroom. Like you can't do it asynchronously. This is the kind of
Students love Jeopardy, by the way. They ask for it.
yes, they do. Yes, they do.
It's an iconic American, for most of our students grew up in the US, so they have some sort of, even if it's through their parents, they have some sort of sense of, I think, did Alex Trebek, he died, right? Did he die? And who hosts? I don't know who hosts it now. I mean, but it's been going on for decades, like Jeopardy. My parents used to love Jeopardy, right? And it makes you feel smart, right? Because it's not only the questions, but it's the information that, if you've listened to a song or whatever it is that you've done in your class, you can integrate the cultural components so it's all interconnected. And I like this better than Kahoot on some level.
This allows students to engage and ask questions. Kahoot is not a bad. It's a nice technology, but you have to switch it up. You have to kind of keep students. That's the thing, though. We have so much technology exists. If you use a different technology every other class, you won't get the chance to play the same technology twice. Like I play Jeopardy, I play vocabby, I play Kahoot. I play Guess the Who game, which we're going to play in a minute. There's just so many that you won't even get a chance to play Jeopardy twice or 3 times in a class. Charles.
Yeah, sorry, I just sent you like the alternative I was using. I was not aware of this one, and the one I shared with you is like more team. So I've been using them like as teams and so on, and they show actually the questions as well. So yeah, just but thank you so much for like this one, because I think like it will be more competitive, and yeah.
Do the students in the Jeopardy labs create the questions, or you still create the questions for them?
You still have to create the questions, Jeopardy lab, and the thing is like, yeah, we've been using it like I know my instructor, PhD instructor, like created like some for like questions, as you said, like so that is good. And I also use them for my content classes. For instance, I used it in my applied language acquisition like 2 days ago. So yeah, no, that's very good. And I like also, I mean, I think the team is also interesting because, you know, they discuss together, but this one is much more interactive, and I think like, yeah, is maybe more competitive and more fun. So anyway. Thank you.
And I think for second language acquisition classes, this is a great way to teach gamification, like by actually having your graduate students and / instructors play the game, right? Because they, you know, everyone's tired, they space out if it's just a bunch of, you know, PowerPoints, and it gets you, you know, the energy level goes up.
That's right.
Which is, yeah, that's great.
All right, well, thank you guys for playing Jeopardy. Now, our third game of the day, we have a few more. We have about 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll get to do that. This one is like games on the go, I call them, because it's sort of so easy to make, yet it can still get the students engaged. It tends to be like for a lower level class, but you can still sort of configure it in any way like you want. So let's show you this one. So this one is done in PowerPoint. It's kind of really basic game done in PowerPoint. It's called Guess Who. So it can be a person, it could be a figure, it could be a thing, it could be a concept, it could be something, right? This is how it sort of gets to be played. So actually, let me just stop share. I don't want to make sure that we play it correctly. Okay, wait. Yeah. So what this is kind of takes advantage of the mystery part, like the mysteriousness of education. I feel like we want to go in class. This is what I'm going to teach you today. This is what's going to happen. Kind of takes the fun out of it. It's important students know what they're doing, but you got to also have that kind of mystery. Like, what is this? Like, I want to know more about it. So here, behind those blocks is a famous figure. If you ask me questions that are correct about them, like if you start to ask me questions that identify them, I'll keep removing a block every time someone asks a question until we figure out who it is. So you can say something like, is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it an actor? Is it a singer? Is
like
it
20 questions, but visual, and then
yeah, something like that. Yep.
and L2.
Is the person American?
Yes.
Is the person a woman?
No, but I'm gonna keep clicking because we have so many blocks. Remember, you can make bigger blocks so you can all ask a few questions, or you can make smaller blocks if you want to ask a lot of questions.
Is the person a politician?
It's not a politician.
This person an actor?
He is an actor. We're gonna remove a lot of the blocks because that's a very good question. See, as I kind of designed it, so all the blocks that get removed are kind of useless because you still don't know who that is, but you kind of get a glimpse, like it's a man, it's this person. All right, let's see.
That this person have black hair.
This person does have. That's a nice strategy. That's a very nice strategy. Kind of a problem-solving, strategy building. All right. So yes.
Yeah, no, this is a critical thinking as well.
Is this person Asian? From Asian descent?
No, I don't think so. No.
Is this person Latinx?
No, they're not. They're actually closer to where you worked before, Roxanne. Here.
Is this person Spanish?
No.
Oh, maybe Boston. I don't know what if you're.
This is a person from Boston. Yes.
Oh my God, is this person a director as well?
He might have directed. He's mostly an actor though, but we'll do a block here or there. We'll just see.
Does this
Mark
person?
Wahlberg?
Oh, that's good. That is good. You got it, Abir. That's
He is Boston, and he always plays the same character in every movie. But they're entertaining. He looks really young in this photo.
Yeah, I've been doing Guess Who games for a long time.
This
so
is Marky Mark before he was Mark Wahlberg, right? It's like,
So a lot of games, like you can design games with PowerPoint that are seriously interactive, seriously fun. What I'm trying to say with this particular tool or with this particular demo is that everybody can get on this gamification thing. Everybody, it's not limited. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a technical designer. You don't have to. You just have to kind of get creative, try different things, experiment. This is the thing, like, I encourage my pre-service and in-service teachers say, like, experiment. The classroom is is a place to experiment with things, to see if things work, and if not, and you got to change them. Where else do we get that opportunity to have people sitting in front of us willing to do whatever we ask them to do? Like, this is where you need to practice. Like, don't get comfortable. Always find new ways of engaging the students and try things that might, like, it could bomb the first time around. Maybe you could make it better. I want them to learn that there's always that trajectory of figuring something out. Like, we don't have a lot of handy-made material that we can just walk into class. Like, education is not a mass-produced business. Like, you have to go into it. You have to be inventive. You have to work with the students that you have. You have to understand the dynamics that exists between them and try to bring them closer. So that's what I like. The message is, like, everybody can get on this kind of stuff. It's absolutely affordable. It's absolutely doable. It's absolutely accessible. And it really has the potential, in of itself is not transformative, but it has the potential to really transform the learning experience, get students engaged, at least for the duration of that class. If we can't get them engaged about language and becoming minors and majors, that's fine. But if we can get them at least in that moment and continue to build on that momentum until this semester, it could hopefully help them, continue with languages. So.
what is this app? This one,
This one is PowerPoint.
Oh, this is just in PowerPoint?
Yeah, this is in PowerPoint. I'll show you the main page. This is like there are 2 slides. I guess, like, this is the slide that shows what the game is, and this is the slide. All of those are blocks that are programmed. Like, when I click on them, I program them to go in a certain order. And I can actually send you. I created a video for how this is done. I'll send it along your way so you can show your colleagues and you can look at it yourself. But simply, it's just like an animation where all the blocks disappear from the stage. Like, it's basically an animation pane type of an activity. See the number? Those are blocks numbered in a certain way, and by clicking, I remove the areas where the main figure still stays hidden until a lot of questions have been asked.
So you take the image and make it fit into the slide, and then you block it into different.
Initially, here's what I do. Let me select all of the blocks here. So let's see. I'm just make it a little smaller. So here's all the blocks, right? I didn't select all of them. Let's try it again. So I start with an image. For some reason I can't, but let's do this. So I start with an image. I put the image first, and then I put the blocks on top of it.
Okay.
And I program them, yeah, and then I program them to disappear in a certain order. So that, like, you don't want the ones in the middle to show up first.
Right, the face, yeah.
And it's funny, actually, if I tell you, like, how I got this idea for this. When I grew up in Amman, Jordan, and when I was growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of technology. You either had a bike or you played in this, played soccer and all that good stuff. Every holiday on Eid, the bigger kids would buy this. It's called a balloon bag, and they're like, it's numbered from 1 to 100, and each, like, the top cool balloons, the big ones, were certain numbers. And the kids wanted to make money, so they come to the kids in the neighborhood and say, hey, would you like to scratch? Like, you pay, like, say 5 cents, you scratch, and if you might get like the big balloon, but you might get a small balloon. Everybody's curious to figure out the big balloon thing, right? And of course, they always hid the big balloons somewhere, so you never figure them out unless you're really, really lucky, right? So I said, I don't want, like, so the whole idea is of the balloon thing, like, you try until you get the big balloon. And this particular framework is like, you want to hide the figure somewhere so the clicks or the questions don't really reveal the main identity, because then the game quickly ends. And the whole idea is you want to sell the whole bag You want to sell all the little balloons before someone gets the big balloons.
So this is great. And okay, so you'll send a video along so that we can share with, okay.
Absolutely.
And then the name of the Jeopardy that you showed us, because Charles put his in, what is the name of your Jeopardy?
So this is actually a Jeopardy app that I created on my machine. I'm happy to share it. It's just I have to change a lot of the I'm infringing on so many different things with using the actual Jeopardy logo, with the music.
Okay, so you created that
Yeah,
Jeopardy.
that's the technology I built, yes.
Okay.
And it's not like I'm not holding it or anything. It's like people have asked me to share. I'm like, I want to share, but I don't want to get into our university has
Copyright, yeah.
So I'm thinking of renaming it, putting it on the web. So that's actually my next main project, is to put it on the web and make it available. I'm intending to making it like vocabby in the same sense. You can create it there and you can play it on the web.
Fantastic. So your creations then are like open education. Do you do them also on like Teachers Pay Teacher? Is there anything where you're actually selling access to your, no, it's all open education.
So far.
Good for you, yeah.
Nobody's come to me and say, hey, I'd like to buy vocabby from you, but it's been.
Right, if they came with an offer, we want to buy you back for, $2 million, right?
Oh no, it's open access, and hopefully it'll stay like that for a long time. When I started with vocabby, it's like maybe 200 users. Now we're like 10,000, and that's good. But it also means like there's more demand for more server space, more server time response. So far, it's been manageable. Like the costs have been manageable. But other than that, I'm fortunate that it's another tool that exists that I can share with people that allows them to learn just to get engaged about language learning. I mean, I can't remember how many apps I've written. I've written a software for Arabic that I've been using for years now. But the problem with them is like once you create something on the web, you have to buy a domain, you have to buy the security licensing. It's like there's a lot, like when I create apps on my own, I don't have to pay those additional costs. If I put it on the web, now it's a monthly fee, like I have to pay in it and all that good stuff. So that's why I'm noticing it's better for me to put those on the web so everybody can use them. But I'm also noticing that it's not that easy just to throw them on there. You have to kind of.
You cannot
and your university. Oh, sorry, Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, so you don't have funding for that, like just grants, to try to help you with these, because I know like open educational resource, there are like a lot of grants. So I was thinking that should anyway, yeah.
Technically, this is my next step. It's just like both of these tools are so recent. This is like within 6-7 month progression. So they haven't. I've been chair, which I haven't really had a chance to really spend some time on these projects. Hopefully in the next year or so, I did put a grant to get some money to actually make Jeopardy open access and put it up there. But of course, I have to change the name and the branding so that it doesn't infringe.
And does your university like also have proprietary, since you created it like as a faculty member, like would Westchester want that to be branded as, it's an
agreement. So yeah, within our system, there's a possibility that I can say to the university, hey, I created this. Would you like to collaborate on it? They have to sort of buy up to 30% of it so they can represent it. And I get the 70% in case it becomes commercial. I haven't even begun doing that with them. Like I said, it's just been, I wrote my dissertation, my dissertation was like on creating mobile apps using these devices. And to be honest with you, like this still works. Like even though it's 2005, still technology works. Yeah. It's just like when you create and you have all the different things to do. And of course, I'm still teaching. It's just time. Time is like the most valuable thing to me at this point. So it's not like that I haven't really gotten an opportunity to get grants. It's like I haven't had a time to write a grant. And in the meantime, I'm also building and I'm also making it. Like I go to conferences to showcase it. Like that's why I've gone to IELTS. Before that, I was in Minnesota with CALICO, just showcasing it, just to see if there's a reason to invest more in it. Like you have to kind of I have to see if anybody's kind of interested so that I can develop it further. Like my next stage with vocabby is to the same lessons that I showed today. I want to make them available online so a faculty or a teacher can see, oh, this is how I can use it. Like it seems to me the feedback I've been getting from people is like, how do I use it? So even though it makes sense to me, my next stage is to kind of build a section of the app or the website, which is like gallery or lesson plans or how to use it in your class. so where someone can click and find everything ready for them to do. There's a culture of, I want it pre-made, make it pre-made, otherwise I'm not gonna bother with it. So
yeah, it's a type of laziness. I mean, on the one hand, but then you learn by creating, I think, just in terms of that. So, and one thing that might be helpful is as people use this, you know, we saw it, of course, in what I thought was one of the best attended sessions at IELTS. I mean, people, they see gamification and people flock to it. But maybe people that are using it could provide just some kind of feedback as to how they're using it, right? Like they're using it in, you know, Urdu class to do this, or they're using it, you know, in Ukrainian. I mean, I'm just thinking of languages that are not necessarily, they're much more lictals, you know, or at-risk lictals than, you know, Spanish, German, French, etc. But I think it would be very interesting to know how, for you, right, data, to know how they're using it, and it might be ways, you know, that because the spelling, it's a very, the vocabby, it allows for so much creativity and innovation. Like you can use it for so many different things, right?
We're learning about that as I'm implementing that functionality. Like when someone uses or creates a vocabby, before they create it, they're happy with it, that's fine. We're building the function where, you know, I send them an email, hey, I noticed you created this one. Can you tell me more about how you created it? And if you want to share that work with someone else. So I'm beginning to kind of get there. And
you create a community then too, right? You're creating a community, then you build that community when you have your next app, right?
Yeah.
Because this
Hopefully
is really,
that's the goal. Hopefully that's the goal.
this is really cutting edge. I wanna be respectful. I think that the fact that we did this on Saturday morning when we have Beignet Fest is going on here in New Orleans. So there's like a whole festival when everyone's going to drink margaritas, yes, at like 10 in the morning in New Orleans and try beignets. But we didn't know that whenever we scheduled it, but we have recorded it so that everybody, because this is really one of the best workshops I think that we've had. I really, really appreciate this. And there's so much, you know, because there is a certain resistance still on certain faculties' part, more at the tenure line literature level, I think, about technology. But I think that we need to, as I said in a meeting yesterday, we need to make friends with technology, right? Because it's not going anywhere, whether it's ChatGPT or just, you know, the phones that the students, you know, leave to go to the bathroom and they take their phone with them because they need to check whatever, their Snapchat or, you know, Instagram. And, you know, we need to incorporate these into our classes as tools, right? I think that that's the way to do it. And in terms of accessibility, it also gives certain students that might be shyer, like ways to, you know, to participate, students that learn, and, you know, as we know, students learn in different ways, given learning disabilities, etc. I think it's really outstanding. And I'm hoping when I teach my methodology class in the spring, maybe I can, you know, invite you.
I'd love to.
With of course a stipend and everything to talk to my class, because I think graduate students could benefit from this, because when they go out into the market, you know, if they have innovative ways to. One last question I have, the K through 2, when you say I think you said your pre-service and in-service, is that K through 12 teachers that you're training there? Okay.
We have a certification, the program that allows students to study French and teach it in public in Pennsylvania in K-12 settings. So we get to see them at the undergrad level. We also get to see them at the grad level. Some students who did their, say, French BA, but they didn't do the certification. Now they do the MA, and they also tack on the certification. So we get to see them. And we've seen a lot of need for, you know, world languages to be taught, especially in this area. As a quick example, the Upper Darby School District, which is right outside of Philadelphia, reached out to me when I was chair 2 years ago, said, we will pay for the education of all the students who teach Spanish and French if they're in the second year, and we'll emergency certify them. That's how desperate they were for actually teachers. And I thought that was like a great thing for anybody to be a language educator.